Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode, another battle, another victory, another day wrenching on this wonderful car that I've been blessed to own, a R32 GTR. Today, we're going to go ahead and get the GKTech bump steer kit installed. And the reason I want to do it is because the car's been lowered and I don't want to take any chances. I know it may not be slammed, and some people may say, "Oh, you don't really need it; just rock it the way it is." But just because of what I'm building this car to be capable of, um, I don't want to have any problems, especially in the handling department, because my experience with sport cars in the past is they do the same thing that a regular car does, but they do it a lot faster. So, and that's like unmodified or slightly modified sports cars. Hence, with my Corvette that I own, like I said, it's just like a regular car. It just handles a little bit better, accelerates a lot quicker than standard cars, and things typically happen a lot faster than they do in a regular non-sports car. Um, and that thing, I want to say, I never honestly had it on a dyno. The previous owner that I bought it from dynoed it and had it around 380 wheel horsepower. I don't know how true that is, but it, like I said, the dyno sheets, I'll have to dig them up one day. It was rated at like 380 or whatever. So long story short, I'm anticipating the Skyline to have substantially more than 300 wheel horsepower. And again, knowing the Corvette and how that thing scared me rear wheel drive, I don't want to take any chances with the Skyline. So, anyways, the bump steer kit is going to kind of help what it uh, name kind of suggests when you go over bumps or change in direction. It's going to help the car track true and straight, just because the suspension is at a better angle, like your tie rod. Where instead of like, so just say this is a 180-degree plane. The best way I can explain the bump steer, or when you lower a car, what happens is instead of it being a true 180, your tie rods are going to go on an angle like this, and that's preloading suspension. That's also screwing with the steering angle. So when you go to hit a bump, it's going to do like this, and it's going to give you like I don't know if you guys ever experienced it in a lowered car, but like this jittery or jerky feel. Again, and a car that's got some high horsepower, that is very nerve wracking, especially in a rear wheel drive. I've experienced it plenty of times in a front wheel drive car, and it's not really fun. Just I can only imagine what that's going to feel like, because if people don't know, GTRs are still set up to be rear wheel drive bias. Once its senses slip through the magic of Atesia and your ABS, that's when it changes over to a four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive setup. But traditionally, the car is set up rear-wheel drive. So again, having that dartiness, that jitteriness as you're going over bumps, because now instead of being on a true 180 or even down pitched, it's more like this, and it's just screwing with angles and travel. So with your bump steer, what you want to do is correct this and bring it back down to a natural plane like this, where it's in line with your subframe and lower ball joint, the lowest points of your suspension. So when you go to hit a bump, you know what I mean? It's going like that. You got more play, and it hasn't changed the steering angle to where it's like this, but it's more in a natural place, and the car tracks as long as you have an alignment. So, anyways, that's what we want to accomplish today. So the bump steer kit, and there's a couple of ways you can do it on this car and other cars. I'm quite sure. You can adjust the. Let me see if I can get under here. Your pickup of where your ball joint, your lower ball joint is on the car, which on this car is right here. There are kits where you put like a spacer in here to bring this arm down, bring that arm down. It's just spacing out the top of the ball joint brings it down. But what I'm going to do is try more of a traditional setup for right now. See how I like it. It goes on the tie rod in here, and I'll kind of show you guys and explain that a little bit better here in a little bit. The other thing is, it shows up on camera. When I was actually taking the suspension apart, like a dum-dum. I put a pickle fork in there, and that's a big no-no for two reasons. When you're dealing with a car that's got aluminum suspension parts, you do not use a pickle fork. You use a pickle fork, you're going to mar, you're going to scratch, you can even damage your aluminum. The other thing is, as you can see here, when you're going with a pickle fork on something that isn't supposed to use it, especially with a taper setup like this, you run a risk of ripping and damaging your boots. So I damaged my left-hand side tie rod outer end boot. So that kind of warranted me having to get a new tie rod, necessarily me having to get the bump steer kit. But I said, look, man, while I'm in there, this car is going to be lowered. It's modified from the factory setup. Don't want to take any chances. I'm gonna go ahead and try this out, see how I like it. If not, there are other options to correct bump steer on this car. Luckily, like I said, I got the ball joint option. And some people, depending on how low the car is or the feel, with the feedback they're getting from the chassis, I've seen a couple of guys actually run the tie rod correction and the ball joint spacer correction as well on these cars on the front end. So like I said, right now I'm going to try just the tie rod setup because I already needed to get a outer tie rod. Anyways, this side over here is fine on the left passenger right hand side. Jesus, right hand drive car is screwing me up today. But anyways, this one is fine. I got the wheel turned that way so I can get to working on it. So enough talking about that. Let me show you guys how the GKTech, because that's what I have, GKTech, how GKTech corrects that. And you got to be careful when you're on their website, and make sure you select for a R chassis or S chassis or G chassis or whatever. I was looking to see if there's a part number. It's not, but I'll make sure in the description of this video to put the link to the correct kit for the GTRs R32. So pretty much what you got here is the GKTech setup, and what it does, I'll take it over to the car, maybe I better explain it that way as well. If you look right now, it's got this tapered end, which you can see. That's the same taper end that is on the car from the factory, right? So pretty much what this does, if you look, let's see if I can back it out, not get my little hands all in the way, but you can see it's extended. So it's got an extended pickup to where it goes into the knuckle first and foremost. And what that pickup does, that extended pickup, is allows you to run these guys, which are spacers. It allows you to run these spacers to either raise the pitch or lower the pitch, depending on what you want, or even leaving it like a neutral setup on the car, to like the factories. So what I'm going to do is, again, for me, it's all an experiment. I know how much I've lowered the car from factory height. So I'm going to wind up just going with one space, and it's stackable. So I'm going to run one spacer, two spacers actually. I don't really consider this a spacer, but I guess it is. But GKTech does not list it as this part right here that I'm fooling with, this little part. They don't list this as a spacer. What this actually is the taper that's got to go into your rose or your ham joint, and that kind of centers it and locks it in place. And you got to make sure, whatever you do, that you got one cone here and another cone on this side of the rose joint, and then you can stack your spacers however you like. Right, so that's what that is. Good quality stuff from GKTech. I know sometimes some people complain about it because it's affordable. They'll say that it's junk or it's trash. But if you guys get this stuff in your hands and get a good feel for it, it's nice, it's heavy, and it's quality. It's good quality for the price point. It's not beating people over the head. I notice a lot, especially with the JDM scene, because I've been in it now with because of Hondas. A good 8 or going on 18 years. Import cars in general, people just believe you have to spend ungod's amount of money just to make it worth something. But that's not true, not all the time, okay? What I like about the kit also is everything GKTech sells, even these rose joints here, are sealed, dust sealed. PTF, I think, is the seal that they put on there. So anyways, you got that seal, but everything that GKTech sells with the ham joint comes with these nice dust boots. And I've already been playing around with the setup. I'll show you real quick here. And I'll put the camera on it so you guys see me assembling this. So, anyways, this is what this is what your end goal is. Now, GKTech says you don't have to run this, but I'm deciding to run it just because extra security, and I just like the way it looks. Just seals it off. With the kit, it comes with pretty good instruction. It breaks it down, and even gives you. And I'll talk about this more, but it gives you what you got to look out for when installed. And you see there, here, there's the instructions right there. And it gives you a good breakdown of the R chassis front end setup. Good instructions. I'll tell you what this stuff is wrote down in the green in a little bit. But anyway, so that's that setup. I'm gonna go ahead and get the camera set up and then discuss what those things in green was real quick so you guys could see that. So just bear with me. All right, guys. So I'm back. So what you seen on that piece of paper with the green writing, GK Tech will not put that on there. That's something that I added. Which I suggest you do because I've done it plenty of times and then paid the price trying to guesstimate it. Is I took the actual measurement of the total length here from the inner to the outer center point of my pickup for my tie rod. That measurement, and then the other measurement that I did for both sides, left and right, was I took the total measurement of where the jam nut stopped to the dead center of my tie rod end and where my pickup is again on the knuckle for the tie rod. So I'll use those two to kind of get it close. I highly recommend GK Tech does, and again, I'm going to recommend it because most people think camber is what kills your tires. That's incorrect. What kills your tires more than anything is the toe. So you want to get an alignment and you want to make sure that toe is adjusted correct. And again, if toe isn't right, I've experienced it because I've experimented in my 18 plus years of modifying cars, is again that jitteriness, that unsettled steering feel, doesn't feel solid, doesn't feel planted, just doesn't feel right and doesn't react right if the toe is completely whack. So take it from me, take my advice, save yourself a lot of trouble. So as I said, right here is a tape measure. Just take that and measure this length and then measure from here to there to get your center. Once you got that done, you can go ahead and break your jam nut loose, which I've already done. Go ahead and break that loose, and then you can go ahead and break your nut loose for the actual tie rod that goes up into the knuckle. If these things get stuck, which I'm going to show you on the other side, I got a special tool that you guys should invest in, just in case, especially if for some reason these are, because and the bad thing is with this, these were like fairly good still, and I messed this one up. So anyways, what I was going to say is, I would just believe in saving the old parts if there's nothing wrong with them, just in case for whatever reason you got to revert back to stock. You got something, you can throw it back on the car if you get in a pinch or in a bind. If not, you may have to order it, track it down. One other thing for you guys to know, a little tidbit, is I know the 300ZX outer tie rods are the same as the R32 GTRs. So that's a good thing. They are readily available. They are somewhat easy to locate if you ever gotta go that route again. So the other thing is, I just use a adjustable wrench here on my jam nut for the tie rod, and then this nut that goes through or onto the tie rod through the knuckle. That's a 19 millimeter. You can use a wrench. You can kind of situate this however you need it to get the right swing that you need on there. I don't know if you wouldn't want to do that, so you kind of swing it down like that, and you can see it clears. So go ahead, do that on both sides. Once you got that done, this one's free already. I'll show you on the other side what you would need when you run into this being stuck in an aluminum arm. So you go ahead and do that. So let me go ahead and get this one set up, and then I'll take you to the other side of the car and kind of walk you through exactly, something that you need to do, and then I'll talk a little bit more on this once I get this dialed in. All right, guys, back real quick for a clip on this side. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and set up on the driver's side, and then show you guys me working on it and going over that special tool. But anyway, not to keep it long-winded for over here, I got it set up. As you guys can see, it's in there. right? Um, and here you can see the spacer stack that I'm going to go with. This is not tight yet. This isn't tight. I got to tighten that. But this is the spacer setup that I'm going to go with. And you can see the conical cones are there and there. This is tight, but it's not not torqued properly yet. And what I learned from the last time on the subframe is just torque stuff down, especially on this car, especially with something that has got that tapered edge to it. It'll help pull it up and secure it even better. One little tidbit of suggestion that I would do over here or anywhere when you get to this nut, because this nut down here isn't has a lock nylon lock style on it. This one doesn't. I was debating to go with red, and I got like 3 different strengths of red Loctite. But I decided to go with blue Loctite. It is removable. It is a suspension piece. Worst case scenario is if you do use red, it's not the end of the world. What you would just have to do is heat that up to kind of melt that Loctite out of there. The blue stuff is a little bit more forgiving. So I went ahead and blue Loctited it. Now, one other suggestion, when you get your Loctite, for this particular job, I would go with the gel. I don't know if it's because this is kind of dirty. Yeah, you can see it. Let me turn it around so you guys can see it a little bit better. Now, I'll pick up. There it is. You can see that's a gel. So it's not going to run all over the place. It's going to pretty much set up and allow you to put it on the threads and then tighten it down, just as if this was nylon locked. So that's that, right? Get that, and then I'll go over the torque specs for this. The other important thing is, I read it on a couple of forums and watched another video where a guy had to modify his inner tie rod. I don't know what really they had going on, but on this car, I did not have to modify the inner tie rod at all. And I'm glad that I took those pre-measurements because I could go ahead and set this up. And actually, I was a little worried because I was getting ready to set this. If you see the wheels turn, I forgot that I had turned the wheel so I could get access back here. So I thought this was way too long. So I started taking measurements, saying I'm gonna have to cut this to get this to fit. I did not. So once I remembered that I had it turned, I just went ahead and measured, like I was telling you guys, the overall length from this boot end here, the boot end to the dead center of this knuckle, or close as I could. Set that to my 10 3/8. That's what I had lengthwise, and it worked like a charm. So that's another important thing. And like I said, once you get over to the alignment shop, it's enough play in here that you can adjust it. Now, one other thing too. So GKTech, it's adjustable here. It's also, if you need extra length, it is adjustable. Now, what I wind up doing is getting this, you can't see because I got the boot on there, but it's maybe like 1/4 inch extended here. And then I use the rest here. So that way I wouldn't run out of adjustment either way that I needed it. But anyways, it is double adjustable. So you have adjustments here and there. Dialed that to my 10 3/8, slid it up. Everything is fine. As you can see, compared to the factory setup, so actually it sits like this. You can see how much longer the pickup and everything is, and it goes up in there. So you can kind of see there. Now, there's one other thing that I have to caution about, and I'll talk about it a little bit more on the other side. I could do it here while we're looking at the shank. Depending on the size, diameter of wheel, your offset, your width, you may run into interference with this guy. So if you run into interference with this, GKTech has made the shank where it can be cut so it can clear. I don't plan on staying with the wheels that I have just because of the brake setup and everything that I'm going to do. Talk about that way down in the future. But anyways, I'm going to see if I can get by and clear with this. If not, I will have to cut my shank there. Because really what you want to do is you're really messing with the distance from these pickup points. You're not really messing with anything here. So if you had to hack that just to, like, maybe 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch off of that shank, so be it. You know what I mean? Because you're not, like I said, your pickup and your part that you're modifying isn't this end to adjust. You're adjusting this here to bring it down, up or down. That's it. One other thing, I'm gonna show it to you so you see it right there, and I did it here as well. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit more, and it's all on the boot. Got some grease cutter stuff that I'm gonna clean it with power. But anyways, look, this stuff is your friend. I do it on everything that I know that's gonna have to be touched, and that just the aspect of being in the service industry, as a auto mechanic and also as a millwright. Um, just knowing that things, equipment, you have to break it down, you have to take it apart, just make it easier on yourself or the next man that has to service it. So I use anti-seize on every part that I know, especially suspension pieces that love to get frozen. You got to melt them out, you got to cut them out, you got to use an air hammer or just destroy it and then replace it. I don't know if you guys ever been down that road. I've done it plenty of times, and it's not fun. So anti-seize is your friend. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this part here. Go ahead, set up for the other side, and then we'll go ahead and finish filming, and then try to wrap this video up. All right. All right, guys. So I'm back. Um, something that happened to me here. This joint is stuck. Um, Said I could go in barbarian style with a pickle fork and smack that out just because I don't have intentions on running it. I said I'm always safe than sorry. Um, so when that happens, especially with aluminum pieces, get yourself a tie rod puller. Come in different sizes, but this is the correct size for this application. Have some that's a little bit narrower, and then you have ones that's a little bit bigger. A bigger one for this car would be inappropriate. I do have to get the smaller one for the Vet and for this and the other car, but these are very, very nice, come in handy. So pretty much what this does is slides. Say this is your knuckle. It's going to slide over like this, and you screw this down. You see that pin starting to come down? Well, that pushes on whatever joint that you're trying to get out. So go ahead and set that up. All right, so once you get that pretty much set in place, you can take a wrench. If you got a socket that fits over that, go ahead and keep turning that. You twist this top portion, and it's going to pop that out. Looks like what I'm going to have to do, though, is get a 19 real quick to turn that. Or actually, this thing actually has a part where you can put a ratchet 3/8 drive on it and try to turn that as well. So I can get in there with this extension. Okay, that worked out really good. All right, and you want to go on. You want to tighten it. And I don't know if you guys just seen it on the video, but it actually just popped it. But it's got to pop it a little bit more, I believe. So we want to keep going. And as you can see me just push down on that, it's now loose. And if it was a little bit stubborn, what you would have to do, and I've done it at work, my buddy Mikey and Sean, they can attest to it. You would leave that puller on there, and you have to put heat around that, and as that it would expand. Again, this thing I talked about a couple of videos ago, it actually would expand the metal here, make that hot, opening that up. You keep the pressure on that, and you keep turning it. Eventually, it's gonna pop. And we've had it pop where it's been very scary, but luckily, that didn't happen. Now, the other thing that I was afraid of is my tie rod in here is actually seized a little bit. So I'm gonna try to put like some vice grips on the inner to stop that from spinning, and then put my adjustable on this end and try to turn it. If not, what I'll have to do is break the heat out and heat this end up, and then just just have to go from there and get it out of there. So let's see if this thing is going to play nice or is it going to be a pain and you know what. Thank you, Jesus. It is not. It's coming loose. Probably because it's my birthday week, still weekend or whatever. This car is deciding to play nice. One thing I'll tell you guys, the rear end is very tasty. It's fun. For me, for some reason, the rear end on this car is a pain in the butt, man. We're going with it. Other than that, good news is I think I'm starting to narrow down my wheel selection that I'm going to want to run on this car, like fitment and everything, and I think I'm going to be very happy. Only thing I can tell you is, as you get older, well, for me anyways, like you get a little tamer. So, but it's going to be tasteful. It's going to be purposeful. I'm excited. I'm really excited, man. So the trick is, like I said, if you run into this, first thing you want to do is get your vice grips on the inner to stop, or whatever you can to get that to stop that from rotating on you, so you can get a true feel on what you got to do. Man, that Raptor line of stuff is really good. I got some spots that I got to touch up in the back, but that Raptor line of stuff is really nice, man. Really nice. So it's not any camera tricks, and you can see this boot's fine. So this is definitely going to get saved. There's nothing wrong with it. I said it looks fairly new, except for the rust spots that I might have put on there. I don't know. But it's whatever. There's nothing wrong with it. Last thing I want to show you guys before I shut this video off, or stop this section. I'll go ahead and set this up because it's something important that I want to share with you guys on film, so it's in the video. But anyways, let me show you this end of it real fast. It's the dust boot setup. All right, so here's the dust boot. As you can see, it's not on there yet. What GKTech recommends you do, and it makes life a lot easier, is unfortunately, you gotta unthread this. I'm gonna unthread it anyways to set it up on the car. But they pretty much want you to take this guy and go this way with it. But I gotta get this knot out of here real fast as well. I guess I could have had this all set up already, so it'd be like TV magic, but it ain't. Let's see, put this in here. Show you all that tight. Then you see this is like a left hand, right hand thread set up, so you can get that double adjustment out of it like you need. Okay, so like I said, you take that, you're gonna want to put it through this end, feed it over. So what you got. Voila. So you get it and situate it on there, as you can see. Now the dust boot is on, and you just go ahead and reassemble it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this little segment real quick, get this side popped in, get my measurement all set up, dialed in, then I'll come back because I want to talk to you guys about the torque spec, which is very important. Nobody's got time for suspension pieces to be falling off the car. Again, especially me personally, the horsepower that this thing is going to be generating, I pretty much need it to handle safely. So hold tight. All right, guys. So I'm back, and just want to talk to you real quick. Give you the torque spec. So the torque spec for your top nut here is going to be 50 foot-pounds. Now I had to put an extension on it to get my torque wrench to get in there, so I set it up to 55. And then the lower one of that mount is going to be 65 foot-pounds. I can get right on it, so I won't need this extension. Just so you guys know, that top nut in the kit, the GKTech kit, is an 18 millimeter, and the bottom one is a 24. Let's go ahead and do this motion real quick so you guys can see what you got to do. I tried it. I thought I could, but let's see. There we go. All right, so she's torqued down. All right, and then like I said, the bottom one is a 24, and that is 65. So let's just this guy up. That way we know we're good. Yeah. I'm gonna cheat a little bit, guys. I'm gonna put my gun in there. Get this thing started for me. Yeah, help if I put the right socket back on there. So she's tight, torqued down properly. So that's done. One last thing I want to show you guys, and we're going to cut this video. Let me get the camera. I'll go to the other side because there's a lot of sun over there. Bear with me. Something important. All right, so when I was showing you guys the setup for this, I'm going to explain it a little bit better now. So what you want out of this setup is, remember that at the beginning of the video I was talking about the 180 degree, and then you got your different pitch angles. So with this car and this setup, well, what you want to achieve with these is you actually want this tie rod to be as parallel as possible to your lower ball joint, and you can see with the spacers, I mean it's pretty close. You know what I mean? There's the ball joint and there's that. And this is pull up a little bit more once I tighten it. But yeah, that's what you're achieving or wanting to achieve. Now, for some reason, if this isn't where I want it to be or I'm not happy with it, what I could do, because these are 5 millimeters here, is I could pop this one out and then put the smaller of all of the three in there. Come on, focus for me. All right, there you go, focus. There we go. So the smaller of the spacers I could put there. But like I said, to me it looks pretty much parallel. So that ball joint is what you want to achieve. So you should have the proper suspension angle. So pretty much this side down. Um, just got to torque this side down here, and then that's pretty much it. Put the car back down and check everything. Kind of glad that I got the front bumper off because it's a lot easier for me just to look straight in at the suspension and see how everything is sitting. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this install video. Got a couple more parts to dig into in my goodie bag that I had got a little stash. Process of saving up to do some other things as well. So as time permits and those things start moving in place, I will definitely share that with you guys. But anyways, hope you guys are enjoying this content. And remember, like I always tell you guys, stay up, stay positive, stay focused. So hope you guys are blessed. And just love you guys, man, a lot, and appreciate everything. So until the next time that I look at you or you look at me, peace.